Kings and Queens, Your Majesties, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for returning. Trust you and yours are well and you're loving yourself and others like always. Many thanks to all of you for the support you give to the channel. Thank you so much to our channel members, to our anonymous supporters, to all of you, my esteemed subscribers. You are loved, celebrated, and appreciated. There is something I want to bring to your notice, Your Majesties. And I think I'm going to roll in the clip so that for better understanding, okay? Now, we have a man here who feels that the reasons he had provided are the reasons why Africa remains poor. And I want us to listen to his opinion about Africa being in the poor situation or poor state that she is. And there are reasons he had stipulated, and we will take it off from there.
Well, in this video, I want to address the folks of Africa, the people of Africa. And I've traveled Africa extensively over the years. I've been in many, many African countries. And I've observed a couple of things that I would like to share with you. And I think that as I'm sharing this, a lot of the things you might identify with, some of the things might offend you. And the purpose is not to offend you, really. And please don't blame it on racism or something like that. It's got nothing to do with that. But I do believe there's a couple of insights that I've gained over the years in traveling Africa, in working with a lot of people from Africa. And I want to speak about leadership. I want to speak about governance. I want to speak about politics. So here we go. When it comes to African leadership, and I do understand the tribal concept, all right? It's very different from the West. I have respect for that, and I value that highly. I think in many aspects, there are really great things that we can learn from Africa when it comes to community living, etc. Now, when it comes to politics and leadership, especially in Africa, it's as if sometimes there's a lack of moving forward and having a desire to grow, to have greater insight, understanding, and to have the best will of the people at heart. I look at a lot of governments across Africa, how many of them are involved in coups? And I know there are some external factors in that. Please, I'm not ignorant with regards to that. But in general, when I look at African leadership, I find that very often there's a lack of drive. There's a lack of real compassion for their people. And of course, we find that in the West as well. But when people come with concept, with ideas, instead of learning, instead of progressing, instead of moving forward, very often it is seen as a threat and something that needs to be resisted. And therefore, I think Africa sometimes gets stuck in a way of doing things, and you don't see a lot of progress. Now, I recently did a video about Burkina Faso and what is happening there. Tremendous progress that we're seeing in that country, but it's because there's a different approach to leadership. The new president, Ibrahim Traore, is making great progress in building and developing his country. And I've listened to a lot of his speeches where he's talking. I've seen some of the meetings that he's meeting with international leaders, etc. And I have to say, I think there's something that a lot of African leaders can learn from this young man. Very often in Africa, you see leaders, politicians being in power for years and years and years. And very often you find that a lot of them, they don't build anything. It's almost that there's more a consumer mentality and a desire to stay in power, but it doesn't benefit the people. The thing about leadership is all about developing other people to become better, even than yourself. All right. And I see that lacking very often in African leadership. I can also understand why this is the case, because very often leaders feel threatened by upcoming people, especially the younger generations, that's got innovative ideas, that are playing around with concepts and principles, and that's got a vision that differs from the old ways. And I understand that a lot of leaders feel kind of intimidated by that or threatened by that. They're insecure about their own abilities and their achievements. And instead of being open for a new generation to rise up, they press them down, they subdue them, because they see it as a threat. That's why older leaders will often criticize the younger ones, because it's a defense mechanism to protect their own self-esteem. Another reason is a fear of change. Success often brings change and challenges to the status quo. It's just how it works. And very often leaders feel threatened by these changes. They are comfortable where they are because it seems like the system is working, but very often the system is only working for themselves. It's not benefiting the people. Make no mistake, listen, Africa is one of the richest continents in the world, but it's one of the poorest. Why? Because there's a lack of leadership. You export raw materials instead of processing it yourself. There's very often a lack in the standard of education. And listen, if the education sector is not on par or it's not doing its service, change it, all right? Education is key because knowledge is power. And as a leader, as a president, you have to invest in the upcoming generation and provide them with strong, effective education. You've got no other choice because those children, those upcoming people, they are the doctors of tomorrow. They are the nurses of tomorrow. They are the educators of tomorrow. They are the engineers of tomorrow. They are the pilots. They are the accountants of tomorrow. And you need to invest in that. But if you have an oversense of control, you will want to keep them uneducated. Why? Because uneducated people can be easily controlled. You cannot control educated people that easily because they can see through things. All right, they can do calculations. There's too little investment into building infrastructure, building roads, building hospitals, building schools, building things that can really take your country from this level to that level. But that takes leadership and it takes diligence and it takes hard work. And it means that you have to fight and stand against corruption. The problem is a lot of the leaders are corrupted. Instead of removing the red tape and propagating entrepreneurship, investing in upcoming dynamic business leaders, a lot of times leaders keep the funds for themselves and they are afraid to let the money go towards places where there can be real effective development because it's a threat. Corruption today is one of the greatest enemies of Africa. If Africa wants to move forward, you're going to have to root out corruption. You're going to have to say that we're going to stand on our own feet and we're not going to live off handouts all the time. It's one of the ways that Africa remains poor because they depend the whole time on Western handouts. And when you fail at something, you blame whether it's racism or colonialism. And I know a lot of these things plays a role. I get it. But you can't stay in the place of being the victim all the time. If you always play the victim card, if you're always in that place where you say that, oh, it's because of this thing that we failed, it's because of this, instead of looking towards yourself and saying, listen, what did we do wrong? Where did we fail? And how can we make this better? If that attitude change doesn't come and you keep on voting for the same leaders that does nothing except keep their nation in poverty, you're going to get the same result.
All right, that was Mr. Bracken there, and I hope I pronounced the name right. Thank you for airing your own view on the situation of the African people. I don't know if you're going to see this video, but I am grateful to you that you could point out these critical things that are involved in the underdevelopment of Africa, okay? Why Africa still remains a poor continent. You've said a lot of things that are obviously the truth, and no one is going to dispute that fact. And another fact is that you pointed out that in as much as there are other forces that are trying to, inhibit the growth of Africa, Africa can still scale through those forces and still come out boldly and still develop, even without blaming colonialism or imperialism and the rest of them. Because it's like that's what we're fond of doing these days, especially Pan Africans. We always want to say, oh, Europe and America are the cause of our problems, when internally the cause is within as well. Okay, in as much as all that you have pointed out are the truth, there is something I want to draw your mind to, okay? Based on all that you have pointed out, no, maybe not everything, but on some key factors that you brought up. Now, one of the things you pointed out is Africans exporting minerals that they can process within their countries, okay? Different countries in the continent exporting minerals that they can work on in their own countries. Now, I want to draw your mind to a fact that you have forgotten. Maybe you overlooked it, or maybe it didn't come to your notice. The truth is that most of the minerals that are in the continents of Africa, most of the minerals you hear countries in Africa have, your European brothers and sisters, your white supremacists, okay, those who are, working hard to make you have a good life in Europe and America, had already bought these minerals. Yeah. Most of all the minerals you see African countries have already been sold to Europe and America, to your people. You ask how? That's the politics we're talking about. So how can a country have sole proprietorship to their own resources when already a puppet had sold these resources many years ago to different countries, to different, sovereign powers in Europe and America? So those resources you hear people have in countries in Africa have already been sold. There are regions in Europe and America who are the sole proprietors of those resources that are in the continent. So African countries have resources, but it's not their own. You understand now? So we still blame Europe and America because they are the cause of all the problems. In terms of minerals, most have been sold to Europe and America. The second thing here you pointed out was that you talk about education. Education. Now, when you look into the educational system of the African people, look into the curriculum of the Africans, different countries in Africa, we still have colonial masters curriculum working everywhere. The histories that are taught to Africans in schools are histories that Europeans write. Okay? That is the truth. The true history of the African people are not even taught to students in schools. So how can we take hold of our educational system? You think Africa is uneducated? Your Europeans, your ancestors came to Africa to learn from the needs of our ancestors. And then you think that it's because Africa is not educated, that's why Africa is poor, Africa is... But your people are still directly interfering in the curriculum system of the African people. So how do you think we're going to succeed? Do you now understand? So when we turn here, there is a hold. We turn there, there is a hold. And I believe you've heard of the Berlin Conference and what went down there. I believe you have also heard of the letter that Leopold wrote to the Belgian missionaries in the Congo. And I can go on and on and on. I believe you have also read how Europe underdeveloped Africa. So when all these things put together, you discover that we are not saying that we're shifting the blame. We are not saying that Africans are not involved in the destruction of themselves. We are not saying that we have the power to liberate ourselves. What we are saying is we should never dispute the fact that Europe and America are still the main reason why Africa is in the situation that Africa is in. Now, you talked about leaders' corruption, okay? You talk about leaders' corruption. There is no doubt. Greed, wickedness of our leaders have been the reason why African countries today are suffering, okay? Because how do a leader become a puppet to Europe and America? Is because of greed. Now, the truth is that there are leaders who had risen to liberate Africa. We can name them. Leaders who have risen to liberate Africa. Same Europe and America tried everything to assassinate these leaders. You talk about Ibrahim Traore, talk about how he's leading his people. Do you think it is easy? It's not everyone that have the heart that Ibrahim Traore have to face death and still go in for it. Ibrahim Traore today, Europe and America have not let go of Ibrahim Traore. There are still secret assassination planned. There are still people who have been paid to soil his name here and there. You think they've let go of Ibrahim Traore and the Sahel leaders? No. They are still hunting them. It takes one with a determination to still sit in a position like that and do not compromise. Now, the question I have for you, Mr. Bracken, is that why is it that Europe and America cannot just leave Africa to develop on their own and survive on their own? Why are they always involved in Africa? If Europe and America could just live their life and forget that Africa exists, they should just do this maybe for 2 years. 2 years is even too much. They should let go of our leaders, all the puppets we know they have in our countries. They should let them be. And pretend like Africa do not exist and live in their world, do not have any connection to Africa, and see whether Africa will develop or not. But they can't do that. They are always involved. Africa is never involved in the affairs of Europe and America. But Europe and America are always involved in the affairs of Africa. Why? What is that do attract them? What is that thing? Because now what we're trying to point out is that, yes, there was colonialism. Yes, there was imperialism and the rest of them. But now Africa can develop on their own. Why can't they develop on their own? They are always blaming colonialism. They are always blaming European what have you. But it's still the truth. Mind you, I'm not disputing the fact that we are also the cause of our problems. But when you look at this critically, the hold of Europe and America is a serious blow to the African countries. Why can't Europe and America leave Africa to develop on their own? Why are they always involved? Why are they always connected? Why are they always concerned? This love, they say they love Africa, is becoming too much. We don't even want the love anymore. But it's your Europeans and Americans that are still loving us. They should leave us in the poverty we are in, leave us in the hellhole we are in, allow us to die in our poverty. But no, they are always coming. Why are they always coming? Do you think it's because of love that they are coming truly? They know what they're getting. They know they cannot survive without Africa. So they come and deceive us and turn our leaders to puppets. And this is a fact. This is the truth. In as much as you pointed out, what you pointed out are facts, they are truths as well. Do not forget that the more Europe and America keep having contact with Africa, Africa will still be having issues. Africa will still remain in the situation that Africa is in. So all the solutions you pointed out cannot work if Europe and America are still connected to Africa. I'm going to see you in my next one. Until then, love yourself, love others, stay safe, stay positive, always your majesties. Bye for now.